A campaign, an example of a campaign is going to a school to do an awareness workshop on STEM careers, talk about careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It could be attending a career day to talk specifically about your own discipline, what you've studied in school, encourage other people to go and study the same course because you know a lot about it. It could be speaking to parents because parents are usually the ones to advise their children, do study this or study that. So talking to parents, training parents on how to raise STEM confident daughters. And then it could also be tutoring a science subject to children in your community, to girls in your community specifically. So these are examples of campaigns. And we talked about when planning a campaign, the first thing to do is to identify your why. Why am I doing this campaign? Why is this campaign important? How am I going to measure the success of my campaign? Success of campaign could include people who attended, questions raised, level of engagement. Also, how do I record the outcome of my campaign? I can do that by taking note of the questions the children have raised. I can also do that by taking some photos of key moments, recording the questions asked just to know, and then I can also know my campaign is successful from the feedback I get from the teachers or parents of the children I have spoken to. So those are the ways to measure the success of your campaign. As I said, the recording for the previous training will be available so you can always go and have a rewatch. But now we're talking about reporting a campaign. Now you've gone to a school, you've executed your campaign. If you participated and listened very well during yesterday's training, I talked about how important it is for us to record the data that we get from all our activities. We record this data because we want to know how far we've gone in reaching our goal. If you participated yesterday, our goal is to reach 10,000 young girls by 2030. So far, we are at about 3,000, and we need to know how far we've gone. So for example, you go to a school, you speak to 300 girls, speak to 50 girls, you organize tutoring for 2 girls in your community. Those numbers add up. We have initiatives we run on Instagram. If you've gone to our Instagram, please, if you've not yet followed us, please go there and see the work that we're doing and possibly give us a follow. We also share helpful resources on there as well. So we do Instagram live shows where we invite women that are already practicing science and technology, engineering and mathematics discipline. We talk to them about what their work life is about, how they are navigating it, how they are navigating motherhood and their career, how they are navigating promotions and how to get jobs, how to position yourself well. We have those kind of discussions. And through that, we also attract a lot of listeners. We've had over 3,000 listeners since we started that talk show. So those numbers add up. So as I said, we are getting closer and closer to our goal. So we record this data to know how well we are meeting the goals that we've set. Now, in planning a campaign, now this is why we report our work. I just talked about that in a nutshell. It helps us measure impact, not just effort. Because when you go there, when you've gone to the school, you have already made efforts. But how do you know that the effort was worth something if you've not taken record of it? Now you also learn what has worked, what didn't work, and what to improve on. Because the goal is not just to campaign one time, it's to campaign continuously until you see results. So when you've gone for one campaign, you identify what has worked, what didn't work. For example, when I went for my first campaign, when I approached the principal, she said my goal was to talk to the girls in senior secondary school, in no junior secondary school, and she told me these girls are going to be about, because it was a government school and it was a free school. She told me the girls could be about 500. Are you sure you can handle 500 girls? And I was like, yes, it was my first campaign. I had very little experience. And then they didn't even, first of all, they didn't even have a hall that could contain 500 girls. So if you notice the pictures I shared, the place is a bit cramped up and there wasn't enough space for the girls. I learned that next time. And I said, next time I'm going to break this thing into 4 weeks. Every week I'll go there one time, talk to maybe GSS 1 girls only. Second time I'll go talk to GSS 2 girls only. Next time I'll go talk to GSS 3 girls only. That way I would have gotten to meet these girls individually. There will be a smaller number and we can have a more impactful discussion. So you also learn what worked, what didn't work, and what to improve on. Now, every report contributes to the bigger picture. As I said, our goal is 10,000, and every person you meet, every girl you inspire adds to that number. By reporting our work, we're able to track our growth across states and communities. We're able to share these results with our partners and funders. There are people who partner with us. For example, when I had to raise money to buy calculators, some people from the diaspora, contributed to that. They say, okay, can I buy 2 calculators for some girls in Nigeria where you're working? Can I buy 1 calculator? People see the work that you're doing because you have you have snapshots, you have reports, you have evidence. For example, on our Instagram, you can go there and see all the work that there's evidence. You can use the reports to improve future outreach programs. The reports that we get from the feedback that you bring, we use it to improve on stuff. We sit down, we synthesize that information. How can we improve? How can we better train volunteers? For example, when I used to go on my first set of outreaches, I didn't even train my volunteers. I just put out a call for volunteers. When people came, I just said, okay, this is the date and time and location. This is where we're going to meet. Please be 30 minutes early. When we got there, I just said, you take pictures, you record numbers, you do this, and we went on. But I saw that if you're going to have a more successful and impactful program, your volunteers need to know what your work is about so that they're not just there based on vibes. They know what they are committing to. They know what the work is about. And they are able to now bring, because everybody is unique. Everybody is now able to bring their uniqueness into what you are building. So improvement of our future outreach programs is another reason why we take reporting seriously. Also, to be able to tell our story. For example, how would you know I'm working on getting 10,000 more girls into STEM if I'm not reporting what I've done? For example, I'm able to tell you we've had 3,000 listeners on Instagram. We've spoken to over 700 girls in person. How am I going to be able to tell you all of this if I've not been taking notes? So to be able to tell your story, to be able to narrate what you're doing, you need to have some point of reference, something you can refer people to, and you can also go and look at. Every report contributes to the bigger picture. And as I always say, if it's not reported, it's hard to prove it didn't happen. How do you tell people? For example, if I had no pictures to show you and I told you that I've spoken to over 700 girls, you won't believe me. You may believe me. Some of you may believe me because you probably have known me personally. I wouldn't lie. You might believe me because probably I look credible, but there's nothing to show for it. Now, you might be wondering, what should I even report? All this talk about reporting. After every campaign or activity, volunteers must submit a report. Now, probably they've done awareness visits to schools, community sensitization, they've done tutoring of science subjects, they've organized parent training sessions, or any other outreach done under STEM Ladies Summit. A report is expected from you. A report that you submit to us should answer these 3 questions most importantly. What did we do? What's the campaign or what's the activity about? Who did we reach? Who were the people that attended? How many were they? What age brackets were they? Now, what was the outcome? Did you see an improvement in their confidence level? Did they look enthusiastic? Did they have questions they wanted to ask? Now, this is a simple table of the metrics that we measure. So, for example, the first metric is location. And what we expect is if you went to a school, you record the name of the school and what state is in. If you went to a community, you record the name of the community and what state. Then date. when did the event happen, the exact date and probably time within which the event took place, the type of activity that you did. Was it tutoring? Was it awareness? Did you train parents? Fourth is how many participants were there? The total. How many participants in total? Yesterday, Victoria had a question about how many, if you, for example, you organize a training that had boys, you understand? We also need the total number and a breakdown, which it will include how many girls were present, how many boys were present, and if parents were present, how many parents were there. Also, the age ranges. You could say I spoke to children aged 8 to 15. I spoke to children aged 10 to 20. Just an approximate range of their ages. Duration. How long did this training last? How long did this session last? For like all those awareness campaigns to schools, it could last 45 minutes, it could last 30 minutes. There were times when I had to do these campaigns on school assemblies. So it could be just that day I would say, okay, please could you have, I could ask the school if you could please have an assembly for girls different from an assembly for boys. And I just talk to the girls. So like, and then those assemblies could be 15 minutes, could be, so it might not be something that lasts too long. If it's on when it's usually on Instagram, we do our sessions for at most 45 minutes. So like you need to know how long that session lasted. Then how many volunteers were involved? Did you go alone? Did you go with other people? What were their names? And if possible, their contacts. What topics did you cover? What did you discuss? You need to know the content of your discussion. Now, other helpful metrics would be photos. Photos are very important for the work that we do. Photos are very important because we need to update our partners, we need to update anybody that is interested in funding us because our work also need funds. For example, when I used to go to campaign to schools, I need to take textbooks, science textbooks. I need to take notebooks, pens, sometimes calculators, jotters, to have something to encourage the girls, to inspire them, to say, oh, if you answer the question, take this, or give to everybody that was there. So, photos are very important for the work that we do. Quotes and feedback. What are the important things that were mentioned there? Either the girls mentioned to you or you mentioned to them. And also feedback. Did you get any feedback from the girls? Did the teacher or principal or whoever was coordinating give you any feedback? Most importantly, what challenges did you face? Is it lack of cooperation from them? Is it that the girls weren't interested, they weren't listening? We can take note of all that to know how to plan better. Now, our reports are not something too elaborate. This is a simple structure for what our reports look like. First of all, an introduction. Where did the campaign happen? Where did it happen? What was the purpose of the activity? Second, you describe the activity in just 80 to 100 words. What you did, what topics you covered, and how your participants received your session. What were the impacts? What changed? What did participants learn? Were there any moments that stood out for you or for the girls you spoke to? And then challenges and learnings. What could be improved on next time we have similar events? As I said, we already have documents created in in Microsoft Word that will be shared with you at the end of the training so that it helps you when you're doing your reports. And then this is what a simple campaign report will look like. Please, someone who can see my screen should please volunteer and read out what you can see so that others can listen. Someone should volunteer to read out what is on the screen.
Um, okay. Sample campaign reports.
Mm.
So tutoring plus awareness. On the 12th of March 2026, the STEM Ladies Summit volunteer team conducted a STEM awareness and tutoring session at Bright Future Secondary School, Ogun State. The goal of the session was to introduce female students to STEM careers and provide academic support in basic science subjects. This session lasted for 2 hours and involved 45 students between the ages of 11 and 15, including 30 girls and 15 boys. Topics covered included basic physics concepts, an introduction to engineering careers, and interactive discussions on women role models in STEM. The students were highly engaged and asked thoughtful questions, particularly about how to become engineers and scientists. By the end of the session, many students expressed increased confidence in science subjects. Several girls shared that they had never met women in STEM before and felt inspired by the examples shared. Teachers also noted improved participation from the girls during the tutoring session. One challenge faced was limited time, and students wanted more one on one support. For future sessions, we recommend longer tutoring periods or smaller group size.
Thank you very, very much, Karim. So you can see how this report, will we agree? Put it in the chat. Do you agree that this report, even though you were not at Bright Future Secondary School, can you agree that you can almost imagine what happened there? You mustn't agree with what I've said, but based on what she has read out and what you can see on the screen, would you agree that you have an idea? The people, how many people in total were there? How many girls were there, how many boys were there, the feedback the teachers gave. Anybody reading this report will be able to say that, okay, some of our volunteers even went to a school in Ogun State. They met with this and they did this and they did that and they did this and they did that, because there was a report, and the report is very comprehensive. The report is very comprehensive, so you can see and perceive what could have happened. So that's just what a simple campaign report will look like for us. Now, another topic I want us to cover very quickly is ethical storytelling. Now, when you've conducted a campaign, it's important that you write a report. And what reports do is that they tell a story about what has happened, right? And I know that it is very popular to see things like when people, for example, do philanthropy or charity, they tend to present their beneficiaries in a somewhat derogatory sense, like they were losing their life. Without us, they wouldn't have been able to have bread to eat in the evening. Without our jollof rice and plantain, these people would have died of hunger. You know, they present their beneficiaries as though the beneficiaries are not, they don't present them as, for example, let me give you a simple example. If you went to a school to do a campaign, for example, and part of the part of the gifts you took there were sandals, do you understand? While it is important to note that, oh, I distributed some sandals to these children to help them come to school better, looking better, more inspired, more confident, you understand? It is also important not to say you take before and then you take after and then you merge it together. It tells a good story of how much work you've done, but it puts that child in a bad light. That child is going to grow up someday, see their campaign photo somewhere, and are not going to like it. Or you want to take photo of someone, you take photo where some saliva is coming out of the person's mouth, for example. No, you can still clean that stuff up, take the photo, and it will look good, presenting the person with dignity. Because at the end of the day, charity is not about pity, it's about empowerment. It's about leaving the person better than you met them. So for us, ethical storytelling is very, very important in the work that we do. We do not exploit children's stories. We do not share children's names without their consent. Even photos. Before you take photos, it's very necessary for you to ask the principal or the teacher in charge, please, would like to take photo for documentation purposes. Is that okay? If they say no, it's still fine. The work has been done, the seed has been sown. It's important to take photos, good photos. But if consent is not given, it's still okay. You don't portray the girls that you speak to as helpless. You don't portray them as helpless. You portray them as people that you want to help. You focus more on dignity, you focus more on potential and how you can help those girls to grow. Also, it's important to share impact without exaggerating figures. If you spoke to two girls, if you only tutored two females, say I tutored two females, there's no need to exaggerate the number and say I spoke to 5 million girls in my community simply because you want the work you've done to look too big or to look, like you've done so much or too much. You share numbers without exaggerating. Also, where possible, please protect the identities of those people. Protect the identities of those people. For example, you don complete a job and den go and den maybe on your way to church, you and your sister, you point at one girl and say, "That's the girl we gave those books to." Dat the work remains, the work that you've done, it remains the property of the organization. You don go there identifying those children. Tomorrow we are going to learn a lot about safeguarding, what safeguarding means, why it is even important for this work. So we protect identities where necessary. Reporting with integrity. Before sharing anything, ask yourself, does this story respect the people involved? Does it respect the people involved? Would I be comfortable if this were my child or if this were me? Put yourself in the shoes of the person whose story you're telling. Would I be comfortable if it were me or if it was my child or my younger sibling or something? Does this reflect our values as an organization? Obviously, it doesn't, because I just spoke against it. Because ethical reporting builds trust. It's not just about being visible. It's not just about people seeing that you are working. It's also about trust. It's also about following the ethics of the work. Now, about submitting your report. Obviously, after doing the campaign, writing the report, submitting the report, we're expecting your report within 48 hours, which is 2 days, or 72 hours, which is 3 days of completing your campaign. And I want to believe is enough time for that short report, just with, completing the worksheet, which is that report I've shown, structure, two or three, two or five, 2 to 5 clear photos. I think 2 to 3 days is enough time to submit the report, and you submit it to me or a volunteer coordinator, someone designated. Obviously, when tomorrow we'll share the email address where we receive, reports. Thank you very, very much for listening. So do we have any questions? Do we have questions? I expect us to have loads of questions. I expect loads and loads of questions from us. Expect loads and loads of questions. Someone has put up their hand. Someone has put up their hand. Okay, who is it? Yes, Blessing Ibube. Please, can we have your question?
Okay, good evening, ma. Sorry, I left the meeting to attend to something. So
Yeah,
sorry about it.
yeah,
So I had a question from the first meeting, the first link when we
yeah.
joined. So my question was, I wrote it down. I said, when we go for campaign and you see that children loves the campaign
Mm,
and they want you to come again, and maybe the teachers or the school won't allow you to repeat the same campaign. in that case or in that scenario, and you know, some students, when you go, they want to like, ah, ma, we want to have you again, come back, all those kind of things.
Mm.
So in that case, can we go back and like re like have a separate uh campaign within or without the school notice?
Okay. So that's very, I think that is black and white. It's unethical to do that. And I think we're going to cover that in our training for tomorrow, which is about safeguarding. Now, in as much as you're trying to do a very good work and the work you're doing is going to impact the child has seen how important your work is, you are always going under the umbrella of what? The STEM Ladies Summit through the school. You went through, if you met that child on the road, is different. You can always contact the child or the parent. You can now seek to find the parent as a way of getting to the child. But if you went under the umbrella of a school and the school has asked you not to come back, it ends there. In as much as you want to help that child, that's where the journey ends. That's where the journey
Okay,
ends.
what are in a case where the school said, okay, we want to have the campaign again? Are we permitted to go back?
Yes, is even beautiful for continuity. You know, one way we can monitor that the people we spoke to, we can see improvement is when you go back again, right? So for example, you went when those children were in first term and probably some had very poor grades in mathematics or basic science. When you go in second term, you know, you can even ask them, check on their with their teachers, oh, have they improved? Are they more interested? So it's very good to even have a campaign in a school more than one time. I am a strong advocate for having it more than one time. You can monitor the progress of the students. It even means that the school appreciates what you are doing. Yes, and for continuity's sake, is very good. I was thinking the other day about launching a library project where we collect old textbooks from around, people who have old science textbooks that they don't need it. Our house, my house in Nigeria is a very good example. All of us in my family were science students. We have like six Ababil, we have Anya Koha like four, we have understanding mathematics, we have essential, we have all the types. You know, it would be nice to collect all those textbooks you're not using, maybe partner with one school, have a small library and donate all those books to them so that children who are not able to afford these books can go there to the library to read those books. So if you have an ongoing partnership with a school, that kind of school is a school you can, consider to now have this, as opposed to a school you've just gone to one time because you've not built a relationship. Am I making sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes.
I have one more question to
Yes,
ask.
sure, sure.
You know, you spoke about campaign and you explained what campaign was.
Yes.
So I wanted to know, when we are going for this campaign,
Mm.
is it a 1 day project or
No.
a 3 months or yes,
Yes.
that's what
It
I'm
must
asking.
not be one day. That's why I said, I don't know if you were in the last training. A campaign is something you plan for. So it obviously can't happen in one day. So for example, when I needed to go to those schools I went to, I gave myself a timeline of 2 weeks. So what did I first? The first thing I did, I wrote down the letter of that I was going to take to even seek consent of the school to come over. So I took that letter there. For the first school, I was fortunate. The day I went there, I met the principal. And so she said, oh, you can come next week. So I went from that Monday until the next Monday. I started preparing. I looked for a few volunteers. I put out call. People who said, I want to volunteer to come with you. So I then started putting resources I had together. I prepared my talk. I put it together, some resources, look for volunteers, all that. I put that together and then the campaign happened the following week. Do you understand? There are some campaigns that need more time because let's say you submit a letter, it will take 2 weeks to approve, and then they will now say, okay, we have about, please, our career day is in March 2023. Please, can you come then? So it depends on the kind of campaign. For example, a tutoring session, you could say, okay, you come, you print some flyers. I'm offering free maths and physics lesson for 5 children. You come with the consent of the school, you share it out to the students. They take it home, they tell their parents that, mommy, daddy, there's a lady that is an engineer and she's giving free physics and maths classes after school from 2 to 4. Please, can I stay? You understand? You give them like a week to get consent from their parents, and then before you can start. You understand? So it all depends on the plans and the kind of campaign that you're doing. Have I answered the question?
Yes, ma.
Okay.
I have one more question, but let somebody ask.
Okay. All right. Yes, Karim.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
So I have a question. I got it from when we were answering the other person's question.
Mm,
So you said that when you took the letters and it was approved, I should come next week. We also went out to ask for volunteers and all of that. So when we begin our own campaign,
mm.
can we ourselves, we are volunteers, right? Can we source for other volunteers to go with us?
Why not?
That's question number one.
Okay.
Okay, so the other one is you mentioned the tutoring. I feel like it has you mentioned it a lot
Mm,
in a couple of days that I think is one of the major outreaches,
yeah.
tutoring those students. What if you are not very good in tutoring? In the
Well,
sense that okay, I know that there are some subjects like maybe GSS classes, you feel like okay, this ones are simple, I can still handle. But when you get to like SS classes and you feel like some of these subjects before you can even go ahead to say you want to help any students, you yourself have to sit down to like
mm,
refresh your memory from
great.
what you've been taught.
Mhm.
And once you feel like I don't have time for this, can I maybe outsource maybe for my volunteers whenever I'm putting out maybe the flyers that okay, I need somebody that's actually good in a particular subject so that they can fill it for that. While me, I'll just be there monitoring and supervising and just making sure that everything is going well.
Yes. Okay. So first question is, please remind me what your first question was.
Okay, I mentioned that I was asking if we are allowed to also source for volunteers for the fact that we are volunteers. Can
Yeah.
we look for other volunteers?
Yeah.
That was the first
Yeah.
question.
So yes, you are allowed to. You are allowed to source for other volunteers because as I said, if you are privileged that amongst the volunteers here, you have people that are in the same state or location as you, people can go ahead and probably plan it together, do it together. But if you are alone, sometimes the burden can be a lot. Do you know, the burden can be a lot. I totally understand. So it's okay for you to, put out a call. It's even, this program is to help people to grow. It's also to help you grow. Do you understand? So even on your LinkedIn, you could say, hello, I'm in Kwara State. I'm here, for example, or I'm in Ibadan, Bodija, precisely. Please, is there anybody around Bodija that is good at mathematics that wants to volunteer for 1 hour a week to teach some secondary school students preparing for WAEC? Just 1 hour, you'll be surprised a lot of people reach out to you. A lot of people reach out to you. So like it's very, very okay. Also to answer your question, if you also you're not good at a particular subject, maybe junior secondary school you can manage, or you don't have the time to even do the refresher. If you put out a call saying I need someone who could tutor physics or maths, very fine, very okay. For 1 hour a week, you'll find some people. So it's okay to do that. I hope I've answered your question. Any more questions?
Yes, ma.
Mm. Okay, Ebube, please go on.
Sorry, ma. Sorry, I'm bombarding questions,
No,
ma.
no, I'm very
Ma,
happy to answer questions.
ma, when you go to some schools for campaign,
Mm,
they give you a time frame,
mm,
and some time frame you don't even have time to, explain vividly and
mm,
all those kind of things.
mm,
And in that scenario, you have your plan out. your itinerary of what you want to do for
mm,
those students.
mm,
So how do you tend to, give out your all within this? Like, let's say you go to a school, they would start telling you, you just have 1 hour, and 1 hour getting the student prepared, letting them to understand all those kind of things. How do you tend to, give them that, um, pour out that inflow of what you have to them within
mm.
that time frame?
Okay. So,
Secondly,
okay.
secondly, let me say, because I stay in Lagos, and I don't think, not that I don't think, but I've not actually gone to the part of, let's say, rural areas
Mm,
where you can start, because let's say here where I stay currently, we have more urban schools where they
mm,
have,
mm,
yes, all those kind of science. They're already in the system, they know what they are doing.
mm,
And now you want to go to those schools to let them know that there are some students that they are not aware of STEM.
mm,
uh, in how will you come up with what to tell them, and they are trying to tell you, okay, look at our curriculum, this is what we have for the students, and maybe in their curriculum is what you want to present. How do
mm.
you tend to cope, ma?
So, you know that, let me tell you something. Curriculum is different from, okay, they have just notified us that our call ends in 15 minutes, so let's try to wrap up. Curriculum is different from lived experience, right? You might have a curriculum planned out, but you are in the field, so you are coming with industry experience. Do you know the knowledge you get? For example, you studied mechanical engineering, the knowledge you got from 100 level to 400 level, 500 level is just the icing on the cake. But you will not be truthful. Or let me speak from my experience. When I went for IT, I discovered that I didn't know anything. Am I right? Because when you see the
You
work,
are right, ma.
the work is different from calculus, like it's different from fluid mechanics and all those things you were doing. They are what form the basis of how the system run. But it's not mathematics used to solve those problems. It's critical thinking and problem solving skills that you need. Do you understand? So there's a huge, you make them understand that you are bringing industry experience. You are coming to inspire the girls based on your lived experience, not what is in book, not curriculum. You've gone through it, you've seen what it entails, and that's the experience that you're bringing. Do you understand? So it's a lot about how you present what you are bringing to them. And it's not compulsory that they must agree. If they don't agree, maybe they are not the school for you. Maybe they are not even your target. To be honest, when I look for schools to carry my campaigns to, I don't even target private schools, because I know those ones, their parents have the resources to employ lesson teachers. They have the resources to give them extramural lessons and all whatnot. But those ones in the government schools, they are more, they are the underprivileged. So I prefer to take my campaigns there. Not to say you should exclude the private schools and stuff, but if you find that they are not very receptive, then maybe you should try other places. Another thing is, when you submit campaigns, you submit letters of consent, you submit in multiple places. Do you get? Submit in like 2 to 3 places, and then pick them based on your schedule. The first people to attend, to respond, are the first people that the people that get your time. The rest, maybe your next round or whenever next you want to go, then you approach them again. Also, it's worth collecting contacts. So you can say, okay, first time you submitted letters, second time is worth a phone call. Maybe the schools you couldn't go to, say, okay, hello, I'm unable to come this time, but could we reschedule for next time? And then when the next time is close, you call them up, or you go again to say, okay, can I come this time? Or you try other schools. And again, how to manage time. To be honest, I'll tell you based on my personal experience. When you go to those schools, they're not going to give you an infinite amount of time, because Schools are regimented. Do you understand? There's periods, there's already a plan, there are classes that are supposed to happen. So they'll just usually carve out some time to give to you. So if they give you 1 hour, it's more than enough, to be honest. Just make sure if they give you 1 hour, you arrive at least 30 minutes before that 1 hour. And keep reminding them, please let the students move to the hall. Please let the students move to the hall. Please, you even go to the hall, do your small setup that you want to do. If you have some gifts, put them down. If you have your volunteers, let them be around. Then, emphasize how important you want to keep to time. Structure your campaigns in a way that will help you save time. Summarize your You don't have to have 15 slides. You don't even need to sometimes use a slide deck if they don't have a means to, what do they call those projectors? They don't have those things. You just come, talk about, I'm an engineer, I work here, this is what engineering looks like, this is the things that we can do. And then you can also talk to the school after the event. Say, I would like to come again. Maybe next time we could have a more practical, you understand, so that you got 1 hour, maybe you could get another 1 hour next time. So it's just about knowing how to manage your time and working with the resources that you have. They might be limited, but what is most important is not how long you talk, it's the message. The message should just be strong enough to inspire the people that you've spoken to. So that's just what I'll say. Usually, most of my campaigns, 1 hour. I just tell one of my volunteers, please time me. First 15 minutes, introduce myself, tell them who I am, where I work, or what I studied. In fact, I don't even focus on where I work, what I studied, or how it was like for me. Some of the things you encounter if you choose to study mechanical engineering, for example, the opportunities where you likely work if you're a mechanical engineer, and then that is that. And then I move on to asking them questions. I don't even talk much. What do you want to be? Example, I've gone, people say, I want to be a lawyer. Why do you want to be a lawyer? Why can't you consider engineering? If you're good at maths, this is how you can improve your math skills. Interact with the children. And then last 15 minutes, encourage them, tell them it's possible, take a few photos, and that's it. Call it a day. Just make sure you're there on time because it will help you to have balance. Okay, one more question before we. Please, if you're here, please put your number in the chat because we have a WhatsApp community